So I'm a guitar player. I've been playing for 20-some years now. But I have to admit that I've been holding a grudge. And the grudge is against this. Specifically, the separation of notes into black and white. Here's where that comes from. On a guitar, if you know how to play a song in one key, you can play it in any key. If you learn one shape, you can just slide it. The first time I sat down at a piano and understood what it was really asking of me, a different set of black and white keys for every chord, years of practicing scales just to get to move between simple triads, my honest reaction was, "What? This can't be right." That feeling stayed with me for a long time. But then I wondered, what if learning chords in every key didn't have to take years? What if the relationships between chords were made visible? And what if the most musical way to move between those chords was also the easiest? And then it hit me. In C major, the notes of the one chord are C, E, and G. Let's put a red dot on each of those. The 2 chord is D minor, whose notes are D, F, and A. Let's put a green dot on each of those. The 3 chord is E minor, whose notes are E, G, B. Let's put a blue dot on each of those. The 4 chord is F. Let's put an orange dot on F, A, and C. The 5 chord is G, so let's put a yellow dot on G, B, and D. The 6 chord is A minor, so let's put an indigo dot on A, C, and E. And for the 7 chord, which is B diminished, let's put a purple dot on B, D, and F. Now, let's compress all the dots so they fit inside one single octave. Now we have all 7 triads visualized inside one octave. We print it, print a few more, tape them together, and we get this repeating pattern outlining chords in the key of C major. Now watch what happens to the 1 chord when I slide it a half step down to B. Now, let's slide it to D flat major. Look where the 1s are. Now here's the kicker. To play in any other key, you can just slide it around. As you can see, at the simplest level, this maps out every triad. That's obvious. But there's more to it, and I'll get to that. Here's what we're going to do for the rest of the video. 1. I'll show you the thing working before I explain how it works. 2. We'll review it dot by dot, so you can see exactly where that pattern comes from. And 3, I'll show you everything it reveals, so you'll be able to sit down at any keyboard instrument, armed with this strip, and start playing within minutes. The first example will alternate between the 1 and the 2, the 1 and the 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5, 1 and 6, and 1 and 7, up and down. Let's start in G major. The next one is in G Aeolian. Now, we're going to go through the triads in order, up and down the keyboard, in A flat Ionian. Now we're going to go through the triads in order, while minimizing movement from 3 separate starting points in A-flat Ionian. And lastly, we're going to cycle through all 7 triads by changing a single note at a time. Before I explain how it works, let me back up a few years. So I write a bunch of songs, I learn to record and mix, I make an album, and I send it out to studios around town looking for an internship. I meet a guy who introduces me to Daniel, who owns a studio here in Montreal. Dan's an amazing keyboard player, and he has quite the collection of synthesizers. The first time he played one in front of me, my mind blew wide open. I couldn't believe I'd never explored that universe before. Right away, I knew I had to learn to play these keyboards so I could use those incredible sounds on my own songs. So I buy a MIDI controller with the intent to dive deep into this world. One day, it just hits me. What if I put a sticker of the same color on every chord tone of each triad in a given key? So I picked G flat. I put a red dot on all the chord tones of the one chord. G flat, B flat, D flat. And it repeats. G flat, B flat, D flat. Then green dots for the 2 chord, blue dots for the 3 chord, orange dots for the 4 chord, yellow dots for the 5 chord, indigo dots for the 6 chord, and purple dots for the 7 chord. It gives me this repeating pattern, these columns of 3 colored dots. And lo and behold, I can play chords that voice lead efficiently. For those of you who work with electronic instruments, you'll know that if you want to transpose, you can just do it inside the computer. Now I've got a MIDI controller I can play over my own songs with, because I know how to analyze them with Roman numerals. It was a gigantic revelation for me, and it turned out to be an incredibly useful design. Then one day, I'm at the studio looking at the Moog Grandmother, and I'm a little bummed out because I can do all this stuff on my MIDI controller in any key, but not on the Moog. I'd have to stick the stickers in one key, and then I still couldn't transpose. And stickers are sticky. Who likes sticky instruments? And then it hits me. I could just print that pattern on a piece of paper and slide the paper to change keys. Big revelation. So I take an hour to design it in Adobe Illustrator, the whole time thinking, there's no way this works. So I print it to size, I cut the little strips, I taped them together into one long one, put it on the Moog, and lo and behold, it works. I can play triads that minimize movement across every key. Unreal. Couldn't believe it. And I was so sure this mattered that I committed to posting one improvised piece every single day for a year on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And so I did. So let me take a moment to review. Here we go slowly. We build the 1 chord, outlining its tones in red, then the 2 chord in green, the 3 in blue, the 4 in orange, the 5 in yellow, the 6 in indigo, and the 7 in purple. Now we've got this pattern. Now let's compress all the dots so they fit inside a single octave. Look at the note C. It's part of the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 6 chord. Now that we've got all 7 triads visualized inside 1 octave, we print it, print a few more, tape them together, and we get this repeating pattern. Keep your eyes on the red dots. Watch what happens when I slide it a half step higher. The red dots now outline the chord tones of D flat. If we go up one more half step, we get to D. And if we keep sliding, we outline chords in every key. Some of you may be thinking, that's a lot of dots. But here's the beautiful thing. You only ever focus on one color at a time. And when you do, something interesting happens. The color you're looking at pops out, and all the others fade into the background. What you choose to focus on becomes brighter, and everything else gets out of the way. And I should say, sliding a piece of paper along a keyboard is not a new idea. People have printed scale strips for years, and those are genuinely helpful if you want to know which notes are in the scale. But a scale strip helps you play melodies. What this specific pattern outlines that the earlier versions never got to is every diatonic triad and the voice leading between them. Now we're not talking about counterpoint, where you write a melody and then a counter melody following a set of rules, but more in the sense that we're not just chaining root position chords. We pick one voicing, then see how little we have to move to get to the next one. A common progression is 1, 6, 2, 5. Let me show you how that works on the strip. Now, I want to come back to my grudge, the separation of notes into black and white. Here's the thing. It used to make sense, because of how the piano is tuned. The keyboard was designed before equal temperament. Back then, the keys with few sharps and flats sounded sweet. And the further into the sharps and flats you went, the rougher and more out of tune it got. But equal temperament evened all of that out. Every key became equally, very slightly out of tune. We gave up perfect ratios for an approximation so good, our ears stopped noticing. And in exchange, we got to play in every key without retuning the instrument every time. So mathematically, there's no longer any difference between a black key and a white key. The layout is showing you a distinction that stopped being real hundreds of years ago. That's the grudge. The piano is drawing a line that isn't there anymore. And underneath all of this is one idea I wish we made a bigger fuss about. Music is not a set of absolute pitches. It's a set of relative intervals. A song isn't a set of specific frequencies. It's the distances between the notes that matters. That's why you can sing Happy Birthday starting on any note you like, and it's still Happy Birthday. We make so much fuss about perfect pitch, about naming frequencies out of thin air, and honestly, I think that misses where the music lives. The music lives in the relationships, and that's exactly what the strip shows you. Not the notes, the relationships. Slide it, and the relationships come along for the ride. So now we have the physical embodiment of Roman numeral analysis. Look at any one note here. It's living 3 lives at once. In one chord, it's the root. In another, it's the third. And in another, it's the 5th. And I'll be honest with you, I never fully wrapped my head around Roman numerals myself until I saw them on this strip. And here's the thing, this doesn't just work for triads. It works for every 7th chord too. Most of us know you can think of a dominant chord as a major triad and a diminished triad stacked together. The same trick works across the board. Take any 2 chords a third apart and you get a 7th chord, because they already share 2 notes. The 1 chord plus the 3 chord gives you the major 7th version of the 1 chord. When you're hearing a major 7th chord, you're really hearing a major chord and a minor chord played at once. And it keeps going. 2 plus 4 is the minor 7th of the 2. 3 plus 5 is the minor 7th of the 3. 4 plus 6 is the major 7th of the 4. 5 plus 7 is the dominant of 5. 6 plus 1 is the minor 7th of 6. 7 plus 2 is the half diminished of the 7. Now, let's see those 7th chords in action in G flat. Now, in order, up and down the keyboard. And lastly, we're going to cycle through all seventh chords by changing one note at a time. And guess what? This applies to every mode. Not just Ionian, but Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. All of them. Triads and seventh chords in every mode and every key, with 21 dots and 7 colors. I want to take a moment to point out that we could take the trouble of renumbering all the Roman numerals to match the tonic of each mode, but to me it's totally needless, since the underlying dotted structure remains the same. Here's a few examples of modes where the tonic of A flat stays the same. Now, here's the key idea I want you to leave with today. If you leave with nothing else, this is it. We can think of voice leading not as an abstract set of rules we apply to a melody after the fact, but as minimum motion navigation. The strip incentivizes good voice leading because the geometry of the dots makes the minimum motion path the visually obvious one. Given where your fingers already are, and the next chord you want, your eye just latches on to the nearest dots. You're not worrying about first inversion, second inversion, root position. There's no sheet music, no abstract notation in between. You can see it on the instrument itself. And in a moment, I'll show you how this small move is actually an instance of something much, much bigger. Traditionally, we chain root position chords because that's the cognitively easy move. With this, the easiest move and the move that voice leads best are the same move. The easiest thing to do is now the thing that makes the most sense. That bigger thing has a name. Physicists call it the least action principle, and it might be the deepest idea in all of physics. Nature is lazy in a smart way. Light bends entering through water to take the fastest path through. A soap bubble pulls into the tightest shape it can hold. And a honeycomb is made of hexagons because that's what walls off the most space with the least wax. Every time, nature spends the least it can. And here's the thing. The same principle governs how chords connect. It's not an iron law, but it's a starting point. There's this idea in design. Keep it as simple as possible, but not simpler. To me, music has always been half math and half emotion. You feel where the harmony wants to go, but to find it instantly, you have to know the structure underneath it. So here's how you play the game. You pick a color, 3 dots as close together as possible, and you press those notes. Then you pick another color, and you move as little as possible to get there. That's it. That's all there is to it. You just repeat it over and over. Anyone can do it in seconds. A 5-year-old or a jazz veteran. Because music is an infinite game. There's no winning it. The goal is to keep improving the quality of play, the joy of it. And here's what playing this game actually trains. You start to get an embodied sense of what it feels like to go from 1 to 4, from 2 to 6, from 5 to 3. Not just as theory, but as a feeling in your body, as a recognizable emotion. Once you have that, you start noticing those moves in the songs you love. To me, that's one of the core skills any musician can train. There's real stress relief in it too, because you're much less likely to hit a wrong note. You're not busy remembering which black and white keys to press. You're looking at the structure itself. And we're not talking about perfect pitch here. We're talking about relative pitch. So literally everybody can learn this. And here's something even strong players know. After years, your hands fall into the same grooves, the same shapes, the same songs. This thing shows you the doors you'd stopped seeing. So now you can start playing freely and joyfully in any key. So try it. It's simple and it works. To me, it was like finding the light switch in a room I'd been navigating with a flashlight. And one more thing. This works on guitar too. Piano you can think of as one long string. Guitar has 6 overlapping strings, so you've got 2 dimensions instead of 1. It's a much harder problem. To cover all 12 keys, you need 12 different configurations, and it asks that you're already fairly fluent on the instrument. It's harder, but useful, if you care about such things. So I work with musicians one-on-one. If you've been in a creative rut for a while, book a call with me through the link below. Let's talk.